Your network is your net worth. You've probably heard this expression before, but how do you put it into practical use? Or, stated another way, how specifically can you leverage the contacts you already have and the new ones you create to build your network and grow your business? We'll delve into this very important topic for small business owners on today's episode of C-Suite on Your Street. Welcome to C-Suite on Your Street, a show where we talk about what you need to know to start, run, and grow your small business. I'm LaTaunya Howard, your host and fellow small business owner of Howard Corporate Center right here in the city of Laurel. On this program, we speak with entrepreneurs and experts on a wide range of business topics. Our goal, to share resources, tips, and tricks to help you operate and think like a CEO, wherever you are on your entrepreneurial journey. Today's guest is Kisha Webster, who has been a corporate relationship expert for more than a decade. Today, Ms. Webster will provide strategies to help you effectively build your network, cultivate business relationships, and move your business to the next level. Ms. Webster, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, LaTaunya.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Welcome to the studio.
Wonderful.
So today, of course, we're going to be talking about networking and how you can use it to build your business and grow your network and your net worth. Okay. But tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to become a corporate relationship builder.
Wonderful, definitely. So for me, my background is you always start out being who you are before you even develop a career at all. So just before even thinking about what I wanted to do professionally, I've always been a bit of a class clown. I've always loved people, entertaining them. I've always enjoyed crowds. So after graduating from college, I started working for United Parcel Service, which was a great opportunity for me. I started out in sales. And from there, I just advanced from being a hunter to an account manager, human resources. And I realized I absolutely loved getting out, meeting new people, understanding, their business, what made them go into business. And I didn't realize how natural it was for me to build relationships with different business owners. My peers would start to panic. I have to go talk to the CEO. I have to go talk to this person, that person. And I'm like, they're people, you know what I mean? They're human, just like you and I are. So just go in there, build a relationship with them. And then from that point, I started to realize that I ended up having more success with just business practices, just by being myself and just building relationships. Once you build a relationship first, everything else just falls into place,
Okay, nice. So what are some of the things that you do? We'll go a little bit more into networking and some strategies, but are there some specific successes that you've had as a relationship builder or moments that the audience, I think, will find value in?
Absolutely. So I realized that you don't just stay in the moment for what you're doing. You take what you realize you're doing well at, and you begin to nurture it. So I realized building relationships was incredibly easy for me to do. And so I started to take that and build relationships, not just within UPS, but, in other areas. In ministry, I started building relationships in a way that I began to network outside of UPS and meeting different business owners. And as a result of that, it led to open doors for other business opportunities. I was offered jobs, not necessarily that I took them, but, I still had the opportunity to go work for other organizations. Had the pleasure of connecting other people in my network to job opportunities as a result of relationships that I've built. So it's always a good thing to feel like you built a good enough relationship that people trust you, that other people in your life could benefit from them, not just yourself. So those are some really cool opportunities that I've had. And like I mentioned earlier, it just adds to the success that you have with whatever business that you are doing, because people feel comfortable with who you are. They feel like they can trust you. So generally, people like to do business with people that they can trust.
Right,
So.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
And
welcome.
the reason why I think networking in particular is such an important topic for small business owners is because, like you said, people do business with who they know, they like, and trust.
Absolutely.
So it's important to cultivate those relationships and not only seek out opportunities for people to perhaps help you, because we all need help, but you need to add value to others.
Absolutely.
Just like you mentioned. So I think that's
Absolutely.
very important. So before we dig into some strategies for networking, let's start at the basics. What specifically is networking from your perspective?
That's a good question. So I don't like to overthink things. I think networking is nothing more than just interaction and exchange, to be quite honest with you. I think when we think about networking, people get really tense, they get really nervous. They're like, oh my God, I have to go be on. It's not about being on, it's just about you being yourself, just mere interaction. The same way you would interact with a family member, think of interacting with other people in that same way to kind of take some of the edge off, just so that you're comfortable with being yourself. And then at the end of the day, when you're networking with someone and you're interacting with them, there's an exchange that happens, whether the exchange is knowledge, whether the exchange is an opportunity, whether the exchange is just laughter, joy, it's an exchange. So, yeah.
And I think something that's important along those lines that you and I talked about is that when you network, you don't necessarily have to be at a structured event.
Absolutely.
You can be engaging in day-to-day activities, interacting with people, and be networking.
Absolutely. So a lot of times we think, you know, I'm going to a networking event that's formal and I need a ticket and there's an entrance. But networking isn't always about formal events. You're networking with people when you're getting coffee and you're making your coffee at the bar and you're stirring it. That's a networking opportunity because you have a moment to exchange or interact with somebody that you did not know. Maybe going into a restaurant, just anything. Every opportunity that we have to interact with another person, whether we know them or not, that's an opportunity to network. You have an opportunity to share what you do, what you love, what you're great at, and find out something about them that you didn't know. So
excellent, excellent. So now that we have a sense of what networking is and what it is not, it doesn't always have to be in an encapsulated place where you have to buy a ticket to get in. It can be anywhere. Anytime you're exchanging ideas or you have an opportunity to meet new people is a networking opportunity, like you said.
Absolutely.
So now that we know that, let's talk about why specifically networking is important for small business owners.
I think networking is important for small business owners, for one, because before you even develop your business plan, nobody knows what ideas you have, nobody knows what your services are, no one knows what your product is. And if you're not the person telling and sharing and interacting and engaging and building relationships, then you're fulfilling a hobby, essentially. So as a small business owner, I think the sooner you're open to building relationships and engaging with people, just talking with them, understanding what is it that you like, what is it that you need, what is it that you would like to see happen differently, that gives you more information to understand, okay, well, they do have a need for what I have to offer. Just the more you're willing to do that, it gives you an opportunity to build a brand, build a relationship, and then your stuff starts to spread. You know, they share with, hey, maybe I can't use it, but I know someone else who can, And so at the end of the day, networking, building relationships for business owners is incredibly important because people would love to support your business, but they have to know that it exists first. No one can look at you and see what you have to bring to the table if you're not willing to open your mouth and share that.
Right. Yeah. And one of the things that I think you're known for, or that you talk a lot about, is building a tribe.
Yes.
What do you mean when you say that?
So I think oftentimes we look at people that are successful and we think that they were just born successful or something, lucky just happened to them. And it's not about that. Like, really, it's all about, nobody can do everything great. Not one person. I don't care how great they are at what they do. They didn't get there by themselves. Right. And so I think it's important, whether it's corporately, whether it's professional or whether it's personal, to build a tribe. It's important to have people around you that can do well what you can't. We have to be honest with ourselves and admit, I'm really good at this, but I'm not so good at that. I don't know all of this. I don't know all of that. And so what you don't know, you essentially develop a group of people, build relationships with people who are really good at what you're not so good at. And as a result of that, you're essentially strengthening yourself, your own position, your own posture, your own place within the marketplace as a business owner, as an individual. And you're essentially developing demand because you're bringing the wealth, the knowledge, the experiences of all the people in your tribe with you whenever you show up. So that's the reason why I feel like it's important to develop a tribe. You're developing a tribe for the sake of strengthening the areas of weaknesses the areas of weakness that you have. Sorry.
Right. Something that I like to call blind spots, because like you said, we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. And I've learned as a business owner, the sooner that you can accept that there are areas where you're not as strong as you like to be, or that you may just never be, because that's just not where your gifts are. You need to have people in your circle, on your tribe, who can help to compensate for that, to kind of fill in those blind spots.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just if you don't mind me sharing really quickly, like when I started my job at UPS, I just looked around. I felt a little overwhelmed and intimidated because there are people around me with all these years of experience. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be as good at my job as they are because they know all of this stuff. Well, what I did immediately was I started to pair myself with people who had been at the company for several years within different departments. And I said, I want to know what you know. Teach me what you know. So I spent a little bit of time with them, understanding how they thought, why they did things this way opposed to that way. And within a year or two later, I was so much further than my peers because I was willing to invest the time networking and building relationships with people who knew what I didn't know. And it put me at an advantage. And so those are, again, other opportunities of networking, building relationship. There's that exchange that I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because we'll talk a little bit later about being intentional when you're networking, because you just don't want to network for the sake of networking, because it's going to tire out very quickly.
Absolutely.
But along the lines of being intentional, I personally believe, and I mentioned this at a presentation I did earlier this year, there are different types of people that you ought to consider having in your network. And that includes people who are performing at a higher level than you are, like your mentors, for example.
Absolutely.
Like the story that you just shared, because you're not going to know everything, and it can really help to shorten the learning curve when you have people on your tribe, people in your blind spots who can help cut out some of those mistakes and kind of get to the finish line a lot quicker than you otherwise would. By the same token, I think it's good to have people who are not performing as well as you are, because help them along.
You're bringing them up.
Exactly. One of my favorite quotes is by Maya Angelou, when you learn, teach, when you get, give. So I strongly believe in that, and networking kind of brings all of that together.
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that story.
You're welcome.
So before we go into strategies, I want to piggyback again on something that you said about the tribe. Of course, that can help with your total knowledge base, because when you consider what you have and what the people in your network have, cumulatively, you can do a lot of damage in a good way.
Absolutely. And that's the goal, right?
In a good way. But these people can also be your brand ambassadors too, because when you're a new business, or really any stage of your business, and you're just trying to increase awareness in the marketplace, your brand ambassadors, your tribe, can help to spread the word.
Absolutely. I love that, what you just said, and I'll kind of give a personal testament to that. Your tribe will essentially believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. Some people are very confident. Some people can be borderline arrogant. But most people, to be quite honest with you, are very humble, and they're very meek about their abilities and their talents and their position. And when you have a tribe, I think that your tribe will sell you. They will encourage you. They will tell people about you. They will say, oh, this person is great for this. You should talk to them. Whereas naturally, you wouldn't have talked yourself up, and you wouldn't have put yourself in that opportunity. So you're absolutely right. When you have a tribe, your tribe are people that you end up spending time with. They get to know you, you get to know them. They recognize areas of strengths that you don't even know that you have. And so when there are opportunities, they plug you in there. And so a lot of times our tribe are the people who propel us forward. Our tribe are the people who kind of later when we look back over it, they've given us half, or they've put us in a position to take on half of the opportunities that we have.
Right.
So I think it's incredibly important to build relationships and develop a tribe rather than developing this strategy that I don't need a tribe and I'm going to go through life alone, because you're really shutting the door.
Right, absolutely. And I think that kind of brings home why it's important to recognize that you can network anywhere.
Absolutely.
Because you never know who knows who and what they can help you to achieve for yourself.
Right.
So never shy away from engaging in the conversation with anyone. Okay, so let's talk now about strategies for effective networking. There are probably more than what we have time for in this show, but let's start with some of the ones that you think small business owners need to practice the most to achieve what they want to get the quickest in terms of networking strategies.
Okay, so just some takeaways, you know, just to be effective in your day-to-day. We live in a society in a time where everything is fast, everything is more than what we actually have the chance to do. So when you're networking, I think it's important to be very strategic. I don't think you should just sign up for every networking event or just talk to everybody that you see in abundance, because what happens is you end up wasting your time and you end up wasting your energy, so that when the real opportunities for you to develop genuine relationships come before you, you don't take advantage of them because you've pretty much exhausted yourself from just unfocused efforts of networking. So I think when you're a business owner and you're networking, it's important to, one, recognize what you would like to accomplish. Have a general idea as to what your end goal is. Don't look at networking as being an opportunist, but look at it as though, okay, I have a limited time to do certain things. I want to be effective. I want to be efficient. You have a life to live outside of, you know, business goals per se. So you definitely want to be able to get the job done and still have energy and time to enjoy your life. So I think when you're networking, it's important, one, to have a general idea as to what you would like to accomplish. That's one. Second, when you're building relationships with people, I think it's important to exchange information and to follow up. You know, a lot of times we meet people and it's just like a win, you know, what's the old saying? It's like I don't know, we don't realize how important it is to nurture the connection. And I think you should nurture the connection by following up with people, even if it's something simple. Hey, it was an absolute pleasure to meet you today. You know, let's stay in touch, or let's connect, let's set something up, especially if you feel like that person could be beneficial for your future. So follow up is incredibly important. And usually try to do that on the first day that you meet that person, no later than 3 days. So following up, being very strategic, know what your goal is. And then the other thing I will always say is be genuine, be yourself, add value. You don't want to make the person that you're interacting with and building a relationship with feel like you're an opportunist and you just want what they have to offer. You want them to also feel like, hey, listen, I want to develop a relationship with you, not only about what you have to give me, but what can I deposit into your life. So I think it's important as you're networking and building relationships to understand your own strengths and values. What are your gifts? What are the areas that you're really good at doing? What are some things that you're really good at doing? What areas are you incredibly confident in that you can actually add value to that person's life, to their organization, to something that they enjoy doing? So I would strongly recommend following up, developing a strategy, and just knowing your own value so that you can make deposits and being very genuine with using your gifts to do so.
Right, and that's very good. Speaking to that, the idea of adding value, sometimes people go to an event simply to collect business cards and list build, and that really should not be the intention that you go to an event with. Like you said, sometimes there are people who can make deposits into you, but you should also go to an event seeing who you can help and how you can be of value to other people. And I think when you do that, that helps you to increase the likelihood of people building trust in you because they know that you're not selfish. They know that you're not an opportunist. And you help to build your own tribe and perhaps be a tribe of someone else's. And then it just kind of, it just keeps that whole circle of life and commerce going. You know?
One of the other things I wanted to touch on too that I left off is that when you're building relationships with people, it's important to be present. There's nothing more frustrating than to spend time with somebody, because when someone's spending time with you, that's a sacrifice of their time. They don't need to feel like they're sitting with you, but you're elsewhere. So definitely be present. listen, be engaging, and just be yourself. The best things come when you're being yourself. There's never a
absolutely.
benefit to pretending.
Now, what about the introverts? We can't leave the introverts out of this.
Got it. I have one.
Yes, I am one. So what are some specific strategies for introverts or the self-proclaimed introverts like myself?
I will say for people that are introverts, they tend to be in their own lane. The good thing about an introvert is that they're very focused. A lot of people think introverts is a bad thing. I think introverts are a great thing because they're focused. The extroverts are distracted all the time. They're chasing everything. And so for introverts, I would say focus on your strengths. You know you're very focused. You know that you don't get in very long conversations with people. So when you are spending time and you get someone's attention, be very intentional. You know what I mean? Right. If your way of communicating with people is preferred social media or if it's electronic communication, then do it. I would say do it to the best of your ability. I think having a strategy for how you plan to communicate online or through social media is important. Be very direct, target the people and, target the people that you want to build relationships with and spend your energy there. You don't have to be bogged down or overwhelmed at the idea of, I have to connect with everybody. You really don't. You just need to be strategic with the people that you want to connect with and just be very intentional about doing that to the best of your ability. Right. Don't let it overwhelm you.
Right. And I'll just say, because I am a self-proclaimed introvert, a lot of people don't believe that when I say that, but I think another piece of advice I would give to introverts is kind of just take a chance and just step a little bit outside of your comfort zone.
Definitely.
Because hosting this show is outside of my comfort zone, trust me.
You do a great job at it.
But what I have to remember, and it goes back to your point about knowing what the end game is. Right. The end game for me in being a business owner is to help to build value and to add value for other small business owners. Right. So that's what helps me to overcome my introversion in being a host on this show, because I believe I'm helping other people, yes.
And I think that's the point. That's the goal at the end of the day when you're networking. Networking is really never about you solely. Exactly. When you're doing things for the greater good of other people, it's going to involve you stepping outside of your comfort zone. So even when you're networking and building relationships, not just for what I can get from it, but who else in my circle, who else's life can I impact for the good. So I love the fact that you have stepped outside of your comfort zone to challenge yourself to do something that's going to benefit other people and not just LaTaunya. And so that's literally.
Now I'll need about a 30-minute nap after the show, but that's
you have to recharge. Right?
I have to recharge, but that's okay. But yeah, I think that's very important. So hopefully that's helpful for the introverts who are watching, because sometimes we're left out of the discussion. So I wanted to bring us back in. So this has all been very hearty, and I like the idea of just being yourself and being present, because I think sometimes when you go to structured networking events, which are what most people I imagine think of when they think of networking events. Sometimes the nerves get the better of you. You're trying to make sure that you make a good impression, and sometimes you just forget to be present and to be yourself. So I think those are some very good tips. So what we like to do before we close every show is to provide 3 action items that the viewers can take away and put into practice today. And we talked about some of them already, but just to recap, I just wanted to go over 3. And if you have more, please feel free to add. But one action item would be to warm up the existing contacts you have. Right. And what that means is, for those who are watching who are not experienced networkers, but they want to get started, they want to step outside of their comfort zone, where do they start? And we're saying to warm up the contacts that you already have.
I would say research, warm up the contacts you have. Definitely go through who you know, understand their network and what they're involved in and how that could benefit you. And reach out. Like, people cannot read your mind. They cannot sense what's on your heart. So just reach out and say, hey, listen, I just wanted to reach out to you. I see that you're doing this. I'm starting a new venture, or I'm thinking about this, and I would just love your input. I would love to spend some time just chatting with you just to get some feedback so I can understand if this is a good opportunity for me. That's still networking. There's some interaction there. There's an exchange. So definitely reach out, have conversations, real conversations, and be honest with yourself. So that's one thing. The other thing is, just reaching out to develop new relationships and contacts. Maybe it's a stranger, someone that you don't know. LinkedIn is a great platform. I'm absolutely grateful for it, or even Instagram for people who love Instagram. But do some research on the individual that you would love to develop a relationship with, find out what's important to them, find out their passions, find out what pulls on their heartstrings, and be bold and, you know, dare to reach out and send them an email or a message and just say, hey, listen, I am absolutely intrigued by this or by that, and I would love to get on your calendar for 15 minutes. They don't have, you know, 30 minutes or an hour to spend maybe, but just 15 minutes. I would love to just pick your brain or find out more, or how can I be a part of, and work it from there, and just be okay with getting outside of your comfort zone, because you just don't accomplish the great by never being bold and challenging yourself to do something different.
Absolutely, absolutely. A second action item, which you mentioned earlier, is the importance of following up. At least, well, no longer than 3 days, ideally the same day. Right. And when you do that, you can just say, oh, it was, whether it's LinkedIn or an email, was great meeting you. I loved it when you said X. And I'd love to, you know, continue to build a relationship with you.
I would say with following up, everything is so electronic these days. I am a firm believer of old-fashioned follow-up. Getting outside of the realm of, I'm going to message you. When you're following up with somebody after you've had an interaction and you've met them, send them a card. Like, try to find out some information where you can mail them something, whether it's a P.O. box or company, but send them a personal handwritten card. And then, you know, get their attention that way, because that's going to allow you to stand out in their mind, opposed to everybody else that sent them an email or a text message or an email.
Yeah, that personal touch will help people stand out in this day and age.
Absolutely.
And then the last thing is just to continue nurturing the relationship. You mentioned or alluded to earlier that sometimes you meet someone, you make that initial contact, and then you forget about them. But you really want to have some type of ongoing communication. It doesn't have to be every day, but make sure that you stay top of mind. So how would you suggest people do that?
Touch base with them. If someone's on your mind, let them know, hey, I hope your day is going well. Just wanted to touch base with you. You were on my thoughts today. Is everything okay? Is there anything that you need? Is there anything I can help you with? Or, you know, just something like that. And then put something on the calendar. Have a coffee date with them. Go grab an appetizer. Just do something, you know, hey, you know, how can I get involved? Just something like that to stay at the top of their list. Don't let it be, you know, we had a great connection the first time I met you, and then it goes dead, you know? Keep that lifeline open, because you don't know what that opportunity or that relationship was for. It may not be for this season, it may be for 2 years later. And so you don't want them to forget about you when you could be, you know, a good person to plug into what they have going on later in life. So. And by the same token, if you learn of an event that you think a contact would find value in, let them know and say, look, I was just thinking about you. I just learned of this event. I think it will be good for you. So exchange that information. I noticed that you're incredibly passionate about this. I saw that this was going on. And even if they don't go or they don't participate, don't take it personal. If they decline your invitation, it still meant something for you to think of them. And to try to connect what they're passionate about with what you found out about, you know, and those types of things stand out in people's minds. So that's a great one.
Absolutely. This has all been extremely helpful information. Do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Not at all. I do think one of the things I love driving home, and you probably heard me say it multiple times, is just that I think we're all caught up in what other people are doing, that we forget about who we are and how special and valuable we are to people and organizations. I think I would encourage everybody to spend some time with themselves, truly understanding what their gifts, truly understanding what excites them, truly understanding what they like and what they don't like. And it's okay if there are things that you don't like, because you don't want to accept an opportunity just because someone extended it to you. If it has nothing to do with what you're good at, if it has nothing to do with something that you enjoy doing. And so just understanding those things in advance before you build relationships, it helps you to be strategic with your networking, so that when people extend opportunities to you, you can say, thank you so much for thinking about me. I will not be the best fit for that. However, I know someone else that could be. So I just encourage everybody to spend time knowing themselves, knowing what they're great at, and just being confident in who they are. But I wish everybody, every business owner, every individual, every future business owner, the best at building relationships, building a tribe, and building a network.
And with your advice, they will absolutely do that. Thank you for tuning in to C-Suite on Your Street. Please tune in again to learn more about how to start, run, and grow your small business. And be sure to connect with us on Facebook at C-Suite on Your Street. Until then, I'd like to share our quote of the month. We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. Take care.